Okay. Okay, so I can start now. Hello everyone, my name is Tomáš Jelinek. I am working for Red Hat on the moVirt project. I'm mostly interested in the front-end stack of the moVirt, which is web admin and user portal. But today I'm going to talk about something different. Today I'm going to talk about the moVirt, which is a mobile, in particular Android client for the moVirt. During the presentation, if anyone will have any questions, feel free to write to the IRC to the moVirt channel, or if later some questions, you can write directly to me to this email. So first of all, allow this XKCD comic. When you wander from your mobile device to some web page and it tells you that want to visit an incomplete version of our website where you cannot zoom, download our app. Okay, or no, but ask me every time again. So this is something that we really didn't want to do in moVirt. What we wanted to do was to write an actually useful application, which would not be a simplified or incomplete version of the current frontends, but would be a companion application to them. So not a replacing of them, but you would use both the current client and in some cases the mobile. And we wanted to make use of the fact that it is running on device. So using for example, the camera of the device or the nice big screen of the device, or the fact that you can bring it with you and it can blink and things like this. And okay, so what I'm going to talk about today. First of all, a short introduction of the moVirt, and then I will try to explain the use cases which we currently support, and then some future plans. So I'm not going to talk too much about the moVirt because I expect that everyone knows moVirt. But if the moVirt comes to the scene, then you have the moVirt engine, which exposes some REST API. The moVirt is talking to this REST API. It is using it to send some commands like migrate the VM or start a VM or put the host into maintenance or things like this. And also it is using it to load the data, from the engine, and it doesn't support any push notifications, at least yet. So it means that it has to poll the engine's REST API. You can either disable it in the moVirt if you don't want to do this, or you can set some limit how often, or you can leave it to the underlying platform, which is completely dependent on the situation, like the battery and if you are connected to the charger and so on. And from time to time, the system just wakes up all the services and lets them to synchronize. So this is this bottom arrow to the REST API. The second arrow is to the VM directly. So this communication is basically opening the SPICE or VNC console to the VM directly. And the third arrow is to the host directly, the physical host. This is a little bit of cheating because we are not talking to the physical server. So what we are doing is you can take the host ID from the REST API, create a data matrix code, which is something similar to the, for example, QR code or something like this. Print it and put it to the physical server. And then we can scan it and enrich or augment the screen by some metadata. We will see this in some video later on. So now I will go and show some basic flows in the moVirt. These are not solving any particular use case. This is just the introduction that how it looks like. So when you start the moVirt, it looks like this. It has some tabs. You can swipe around. Currently we support VMs, hosts, and events. And in progress are the storage. And in particular tab, you'll see the list of the particular entities, in this case the VMs, with the statuses. Here the host, and here the events. if you pick some particular resource or VM, for example, here, then it loads up all the details. Well, not all the details, some details, like the status, the resource consumption, display type, where it runs, or what data center, what cluster, and what host it runs on. It has also some tabs which show the events, disks, and NICs, network interfaces. Here I have 4 and no disks. The top bar, there are some actions. One was the power off, and then you can unwrap and you see some others. So reboot, start migration, console, and triggers. So for example, the start migration, if you pick, then you can pick the host to which you want to migrate to, or to the default host. And you can open the console. The console in this case is a VNC. Okay. You can do some actions like console. Some notes to the console. We support VNC and SPICE by integrating with ASPICE and BVNC projects. But limitation is that your device has to see directly the server on which the VM is running, because we are not supporting the SPICE proxy from SPICE. Because it's not that we wouldn't like to support it, but the ASPICE doesn't support it yet. And other option how to get to some VMs using some kind of proxy is the web clients, the HTML5 clients, the SPICE HTML5, and no VNC. But unfortunately, to be able to make a connection with the it's called WebSocket proxy, you need a ticket signed by the engine, and this action of signing some ticket by the engine is not exposed. Well, okay, it is exposed by the REST API, but only since 3.6, so we are not using it yet. Also, we don't have the notion of supporting features only from some versions of the engine. So I'm going to disconnect. Now I'm going to click the host, or touch the host, this one, host button. So it will throw me to the host dialog. You can see again some details of the host, some active migrations, the memory consumption, and the resource consumption, what operating system is running there, and stuff like this. Also the VMs running on this particular host, and the events of the host. And in the top bar, there is only one action we can do, and it is put the host into maintenance. In case it would be in maintenance, then it would be put the host, again, activate the host. And yeah, that's it. Slides. So these are no use cases. This was just a basic overview of the application. Now I'm going through some use cases and will show features of the application I haven't shown so far. So first of all is the monitoring. This was the very first feature. It has been introduced by the very first version by Martin. And it's basically some kind of poor man's monitoring. So if you don't want to set up Nagios or something more sophisticated. And the idea is that you have the device always with you, and it can let you know about himself by vibrating or blinking or something like this. And you can find out that something happened with your VM, and you can do some actions about it. So let's see. Okay, so here we are in the main view. So if I click the triggers here, it will open the triggers for the whole data center. And you can add some triggers which will match for the whole data center. You can pick some particular cluster and define the triggers only for this particular cluster. Or what I'm going to do is to pick the particular VM, which is my VM, and set some triggers for it. We support a couple of them. One category is the CPU and memory. So you can pick a CPU or memory. And if it goes above some threshold, like more than 90% of CPU is used, then it will make the trigger to match, and it will start doing something and blinking or vibrating. You can pick the status, and here all the statuses the engine has, or engine supports, to say it. You can pick the event, and here is the regex. So if some event comes, we match all the events by this trigger, this regex, and if the regex matches, then we consider it that it matched. Here I will add a simple trigger for or simple regex that anything console anything. So here it looks like I could add more. In this case, I have only one. Go back and try to connect to console. This time it will fail for whatever reason. And now if I go to the events tab, okay, here I am going to cheat a bit. I am going to refresh manually. Normally you would have the phone or the device set or configured to do some periodic poll. It does, by the way, it doesn't pull all the events and only the new ones. So we send the last event ID and it pulls only the new events. And even that are these events are gzipped, so it's not that amount of data as it looks like. So I'm going to enforce the refresh by pulling down, and in top bar you can see that this little overt icon. When I unfold it, here you see the event, the standard Android event. You may have seen a similar video in the YouTube already, which was a little bit more fancy. There was also the phone, the tablet, and the smartwatch, and this event was shown on the smartwatch. It would do the same also now. I just didn't do the video this way now. It is because we fire a global event or Android system event, let's say, and the smartwatch is just displaying all the events. So you would see this event on the watch as well. So if you click it, you will be thrown back to the moVirt. Okay. So back to slides. The next second use case we are supporting is this kind of what is running here. It is, you imagine that you go to the server room, physically the server room, and you see all of these physical servers in the rack. And this is pretty physical world. But on these servers, on these physical servers, there is a whole new world of virtual machines and I don't know, storages and migrations and everything. And you don't see this. You can see this only in the web interface currently, or REST API. And moVirt is able to bridge this using some kind of augmented reality trick. So you can go to the server room and just basically have a look at the server using the camera and to see what is running on it. Yeah. So this is the video which is showing this in action. So in the top bar, I will pick the scan code. It will throw me to the camera view. And okay, here you need to imagine that these are actual physical servers in the rack. We have tried to do this in actual server room, but the result was very blurry, so you wouldn't see too much. The moVirt was working fine, but as you as listeners wouldn't really enjoy it. So I have done it again in the office where the light is a little bit better. So imagine that these are physical servers. And I put this data matrix code on it. You can see that how big the data matrix is comparing to my finger. Yeah, that's my finger. And now you will be able to see how quickly the moVirt is able to scan this. Okay. So here I'm going to stop by for a sec. So how we enrich the view. On the left-hand side, you can see all the VMs running on this particular host, and you can scroll in it even. On the right-hand side, you either can see the status of the host and its consumption of the resources, or you can switch to the events and you can see the events. Then you can click the details page, and well, it will throw you back to the main interface, and you can do some actions. Not this one, not this one. Okay. The last one is how does my data center feel? So this is highly inspired by an effort from the UX team. The UX team is working on in the 4.0 timeframe on the dashboard for the main user interface, and it is not implemented yet. I'm not sure if some implementation have started already. I don't know, but there are already done mockups, and these are the mockups. This is the bottom. You can see the link where you can have a look at the whole explanation and everything. This is how it is designed. The idea why to use this in moVirt is that this is pretty interesting information, what you want to have in front of you, like all the day. But on the other side, you don't want to make your main screen occupied by this kind of information all the time, because you typically do also something different than administrating moVirt. But today these devices like phones and tablets typically have quite big and nice screens. So why not to make a simplified version of this dashboard, and you can have it on your device next to your notebook in the work, connected to chargers, so you don't mind that the screen is on all the time, and you can just have a look anytime you want. And also displays well with the notifications and triggers from the first use case, that if something happens, then the phone may start blinking, so it will grab your attention. You will have a look at this and you will see what's going on. This is how it looks like in moVirt. On the left-hand side, what you can see is how it looks like on phone, so on little screen. On the right-hand side, you see the same, but on a bigger screen on a 7-inch tablet, which also has this most utilized VMs and most utilized hosts. Currently, that is being implemented, not yet done, this top bar with the data centers and clusters and number of events of particular type by this entity type. Okay, here I'm going to stop by for a sec. I have heard complaints that this value, that 13.5 gigahertz, is available on this data center. It's physically impossible, because it doesn't mean that you can make new VM which is occupying all your data center, which is true, but we are not saying that this means that you can create one such VM. This is a simplified overview. For example, if I have a look at this and I see that like nothing is occupied on any part of my storage, everything is completely green, it may in some situations mean that okay, everything is quite okay, or it may also mean that, well, nothing is occupied. It means that my VMs are not running. What is going on? So it's something like I need to interpret it somehow in some useful way, but it doesn't directly mean that if you have 13 gigahertz available, you can make one VM with 13 gigahertz processor. Okay, so this was what we have so far. Now about a little bit of future. I'm not going to talk about the kind of obvious future, like adding the storage or I don't know, maybe fix something or things like this, but more questionable future, let's say. One is the Vantage actions. What I have seen shown actions which are supported in moVirt are very simple. Things like, I don't know, start the VM or stop the VM or put the host into maintenance. If you want to make something more involved, things like, I don't know, all the VMs which start with prod underscore something, migrate out and kill all the others and then put the host into maintenance. You could do this from moVirt, but it would be a pain. It would be a pain from any mobile UI, I would say. But what would be nice to have some kind of macros defined somewhere, and then moVirt integrated this with this macro engine, and on one touch execute these macros. It could look, for example, like this. You could have some kind of server containing some Python scripts, which would be these macros, and it could have some API which would expose the list of these macros per resource type, for example, the macros for one VM, the macros for one host, and things like this. And then you would be able to execute also the particular macro from this server. There are also other options how to implement this. Other option would be to have a support for macros inside moVirt engine and expose them using the moVirt REST API in a standard way. It would be a little bit hard because it would be hard to make this RESTful. Other option would be to incorporate this kind of logic into Dr. REST, that I'm going to talk about in a few seconds. Right now. So Dr. REST, I guess that many of you have already heard of Dr. REST. It's a tiny JavaScript Node.js application available here. It is expected from one side to be fed by from the engine, and from the other side it exposes rich query language, which is able to do some queries like give me all VMs, but only the name and the description from them, and to every VM embed all the disks and NICs, but from the disks only the name and the I don't know what. And I specify this in one query and send it to the doctor. Doctor will evaluate this and respond me with one message or one response, which will contain all of this data. And also it supports push notifications using the MQTT protocol, which is a simple Internet of Things protocol. Interesting about Dr. REST is that it has been implemented because of moVirt, and the idea is that polling is evil, like always, but particularly with mobile devices, because polling from a mobile network is expensive, and also it's expensive from the point of view of the battery consumption. Much better is to use the push notifications. There is an experimental branch which is integrating with Dr. REST. Here the problematic part is the other side, how to feed Dr. REST by all the data we need from the engine. There was some experimental script written by Martin again, which pulls the engine's REST API and pushes all this data into Dr. And the idea was that we will trade the polling of all the clients by polling one. Making one client polling is everything is better than making very many clients polling just little parts. Okay, I'm not sure how clear I was now, but you can get the point, I hope. The problem with this script was that it was basically a DOS attack of the engine, so it didn't prove to be a good idea. Other option how to solve this would be to implement some Rebus module inside the engine, so it would push the data inside the Dr. REST. It seems to be a better approach, but much more involved, obviously. Third direction, which would be quite interesting, is, well, the idea here is that moVirt doesn't really have features which are too unique for moVirt. So why not to expand, and why not to generalize the transport part and start talking also to other servers like OpenStack? I would say that it would be totally possible. It would be interesting to have this one mobile client which would be able to talk to different servers. Okay, and this was basically it. Now I'm going to tell a little bit of fun facts about moVirt. One is that it started all as a bachelor thesis written by Martin. When it ended, it was a bachelor thesis, so obviously it wasn't production ready and anything like this, but it was a nice proof of concept. Then it has been taken over by OPW and Outreach interns. These two programs are programs which are aiming to bring underrepresented people into open source development, women in particular. An interesting side effect is that currently we have more features delivered by women than by men in moVirt, which is cool. I haven't seen any other project like this. Also, we have quite amazing cultural diversity thanks to these programs, because we have some people from Brno, from Czech Republic, but we have Spurti from India, then apologize for the pronunciation, Yishin from China, and Nika from East Russia. So from quite different places in the world, we have contributors. moVirt is in the Play Store, Google Play Store, but only for 6 days. Okay, 8, but I have statistics for the first 6 days only. And we have 56 downloads and 4.5 stars out of 5. So nearly full. And it has been approved by moVirt as to be an moVirt incubator project. So some links. Download it from the Google Play Store. Look for moVirt or moVirt, or use this direct link. You can go to the project home, which is the GitHub page. All the sources are there. Please contribute. You can write some questions to the moVirt@moVirt.org, and you could follow us on Twitter. And that's pretty much it from my side. And if anyone has any questions somewhere, here, I will stop now sharing if I will find this here. Okay.